if you don't experience divine discontent, I think you better check your pulse. Let me redirect my mic here. Good morning from Miami, and good afternoon, good evening, wherever else you are in the world. Thanks you everybody for joining. Welcome to the prosperity celebration service, which we do every Saturday, 10 a.m. Eastern, at least for now. We're checking on the, I'm testing different things. This is really an experiment to see if the world is ready for this. The idea is to have a little church, but not really church. I like to call it the prosperity unchurch. This is not a church. It's not a religion. It's just a fellowship of people who get together once a week and study the principles of prosperity, free enterprise, and generosity. So it is a for-profit ministry, meaning I want to model the principles that we teach and talk about every week. And so if you would just say, hey, check in the chat, let me know who you are and where you're watching from, you guys who are with me on the live stream. And if you're listening on the podcast, it's a replay. And we also put up a replay. Every Monday, we put up the replays on my YouTube channel, Prosperity TV, and the Power Prosperity Podcast. So check in there at the YouTube channel if you're watching the replay, and just let us know who you are, where you're watching. And just some news for you guys listening on the podcast. We have just been picked up by the C-Suite Network. So we're going to change our hosting, and we will still be on Anchor, Spotify, iTunes, about 15 different platforms, but we will be leaving Anchor and I think maybe Simplecast. And those really, we only have about less than 1% of the listeners on those. About 80% are on the Apple platforms, about 6 or 7% on Spotify, and then the other ones. So if you're listening on Anchor or another one and you have a problem, then go and check out the other ones. So let's talk about divine discontent, which is our topic for this week. And allow me to take you back about 10 years ago when I went on sabbatical. Now, let me share with you why I went on sabbatical. I was doing really well in my business. I was doing really well from a prosperity context. Had a beautiful condo in South Beach. I had an apartment I kept in Sydney, Australia. I was making in excess of $1 million a year. And just, a fleet of exotic sports cars down in the garage. And things should have been perfect. But here's the fascinating thing, and I think the context from money. We do talk about money frequently in these lessons because we're talking about prosperity, and money is an important element of prosperity. But obviously, it's not the only one or even the most important one. I think prosperity, as we talked about last week, is really a holistic thing that involves many things. But to give you an idea, I was netting with my business, my book royalties, my investment earnings. So I was netting about $125,000, $135,000 a month in income. And I broke that down and I realized that's $4,000 a day that I make. every day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, Christmas, New Year's, Easter, Saturday, Sunday, whether I work, whether I don't work, I got $4,000 a day that I can spend, $4,000 a day in disposable income. And I thought, for me, a guy who was, a single mother, raised 3 kids, I was the middle kid. We were poor. I was poor my first 30 years of my life. I hated being poor. I thought as soon as I could get wealthy, money would solve all my problems. So there I was, $4,000 a day. And then you realize, and I'm buying $65,000 watches and $40,000 watches and $80,000 watches. And then I run into I'm in my favorite watch store, and they have a Hublot watch, which was $480,000, if I remember right. I'm like, I can't really afford to buy that. I don't want to say I can't afford it, but it wouldn't be prudent for me to buy that watch. So there I was. I had all this money, but it still wasn't enough. I had this apartment on Hyde Park in Sydney, and I had this I was in the park, but had a beautiful view. I could see the top of the Sydney Opera House from my living room. And then for you guys who know Sydney, where Hyde Park is, and then you have I think it's the northeast corner, what I would perceive, but where Oxford Street goes in, and there was the big Marriott Hotel on the corner. And they were renovating that and turning a building next door into condos. And I thought, I want to get a condo over there. And it was $9 million for the condo. And I'm like, could I really? And I'm like, wow. So I still don't have enough money to just buy anything and everything that I want to get. But let me tell you the most important thing. The most important thing was I was powerless over an addiction to crystal meth. And I recognize it took that addiction for me to understand that what we talked a little about last week, that money doesn't solve all your problems. Money solves your money problems. And, but I came to realize that was I just going to keep striving harder and harder and harder so that I could buy any $470,000, $80,000 watch like this and a $9 million apartment like that? And was that really all there was to life, that I was just going to keep accelerating, trying to earn more and more and more and see if I could get to the point where I could earn so much that there would never be anything I couldn't afford? And more importantly, I was going to be dead because the crystal meth was going to kill me long before I was going to become a multi-billionaire. And it wouldn't matter how much money that I could create. It just wasn't going to, it wasn't going to matter. And that's when I went on my sabbatical. And I shut down my YouTube channel, my blog, all my social media. I stopped actively working my business. And I took 2 years to travel the world and work on me. And that was kind of the germination of this book. My latest book is called Radical Rebirth. It came out last week. I feel like it's the compilation of all my work for the last 20 or 30 years. And, but one of the themes that you're going to see in the book frequently is this idea of what I'm calling divine discontent. And I think this is a really important element to prosperity, to living a prosperous life, which is what this, this lesson is about every week. So let's talk about what that is. What do I mean by divine discontent? And I believe it's a state of mind that you are able to live in gratitude for what you have, not be overshadowed by what you don't have, yet still have this innate hunger, this innate desire to do, have, and become more. And if that relates to you, just wave, say hi in the screen. Those of you guys watching, give me a, I see Isa Bonita there, and Lisa Ryan, and Jorge and Jose, my co-creators in Prosperity Espanol, and Bob Berg is in the house. We got some great people who really understand these kind of principles that we're talking about. So this desire, that this state, and I think it's really a spiritual state, where to know, okay, I can celebrate the watch collection I have without saying, but I want that Hublot for $500,000. I can celebrate the exotic cars that bring me joy without saying, yeah, but if I had a Bugatti and a McLaren and a, right? But at the other hand, I think it's really important that we don't, at least for me, and again, this what I share with you guys every week, this is just what's working for me now and what's not working for me now. I'm just a philosopher sharing the journey that I'm on, in the hopes that the lessons, I'm striving to become the highest possible version of myself, and be a little bit closer to that destination every day, and share the lessons with you guys along the way. I don't claim it's one size fit all, or that everything works for everybody. I'm just kind of sharing what's working and what's not working in my life, with the idea that you're all big kids. You can process the information and then see what's applicable to your life and how it can work for you. And I believe that yearning for this idea that you can do, have, and become more is a really spiritual pathway to enlightenment, because it causes you to develop bigger dreams. The bigger dreams require you to grow more to achieve them. And then you realize, okay, you realize that who I am right now isn't going to take me to where I want to become. And that's what I call a radical rebirth, and was the basis of the new book. For you guys who've been here since the beginning, on the first live stream 3-4 weeks ago, I talked about sitting in a dreary hotel room writing my suicide note, and thinking that there was just no reason for me to keep going on. And fortunately, I got professional help, and I didn't make that decision and take that action. And I'm so blessed that I didn't, and so grateful and glad that I didn't. But I recognized that I didn't have to kill myself. I could simply kill off the parts of myself that I didn't like. And I could replace them with behaviors and traits and personality traits and daily actions and beliefs that I did want to become, the kind of person I did want to be. And I think that's where prosperity lives. I think that's where a prosperous lifestyle is. You get, not everybody's on this path, right? Like every week we see somebody in the chat, right? We had them again today. I see at the start, 1 or 2 people. They're just like, and you know what? We get thousands of people who watch this now every week. So all the porn sites and all the spammers and everybody is looking like, okay, there's a free audience of a couple thousand people are going to watch this thing this week. Let's go spam it with crazy stuff. So you see that there's lots of people not on the path, right? There's lots of people that are just like, hey, keep your head below the cubicle. You know, in Australia, they call it the tall poppy syndrome, meaning that, you know, the tallest flowers are the ones that get cut first. So if you just keep your head below the cubicle and, hump day and thank God it's Friday, and then we can get some pizza and some beer and binge on Netflix all weekend long so we don't have to think about our life of quiet desperation. And you get paid and the check is always there and you got a roof over your head. And I get there are people that have decided to subsist on that kind of existence, but that's not who I'm speaking to with these services every weekend. I'm looking for the people who understand that life is a journey and that you never do get to that destination, but it is about the journey. And I get that that's a cliche, but there's a reason that that's a cliche when we say life is about the journey. So I would submit that life is about this journey of continuous rebirth. And that can only happen if you have divine discontent. If you're one of the millions of people who just say, hey, life's a bitch, and then you die, and that's just the way it works. And, do your job and get through 40 years, and then you retire and you're going to get security from the government and you can watch TV all day and lay on the couch. Okay. But that's not where enlightenment is. That's not a prosperous life. I believe a prosperous life involves actively seeking out challenges, actually purposefully, mindfully challenging yourself to do, have, and become more and get to that. So you're evolving toward that highest possible version of yourself. And the most spiritual part of that is knowing that you'll never get there. And that was the big breakthrough for me 10 years ago, because remember, I once lived on $7,000 a year, right? So when I lived on $7,000 a year, if you would have told me that I would at some point in my future be earning $4,000 a day, cash money every day, I would have said, I will have the perfect life. I will never have another problem for the rest of my life because I will have made it. And it's only when you get there and, figuratively made it, you realize, no, there is no made it. There is no getting there. It's about what are you doing to move closer to the highest possible version of yourself. And that is such a spiritual experience. I think I equate it to, and that's what I think the book is. And what I think the trajectory of your life is when you commit to this journey, it's an evolutionary process for breakthroughs. It's this magnetic force that pulls you forward. Now, I think there's some wrong ways to approach this, or maybe they're not the wrong ways, but they're just the not as good ways. So let's say I think there's some effective, positive ways to approach this, and maybe some less effective, negative ways to approach it. So let's look at some of the negative things that we want to avoid if you want to go on this journey with me. First, you got to stop comparing yourself to others. There is always somebody with a bigger yacht. There just is. There is always somebody who has more sports cars. There's always somebody who has more degrees. There is always somebody who has better health. Whatever scoreboard you want to use, maybe you're going to be number one. Maybe LeBron James is or was at some point the greatest basketball player in the history of the world. maybe Michael Jordan is or was, maybe Steph Curry. You know, there may be a time when, like right now, it may be LeBron is the greatest basketball player in the world. He's number one. There's nobody better. Or whoever, Steph Curry, whoever you want to put in the conversation. But there's still people that have more money than them, or better relationships with them, or better health with them, or better education than them, or whatever. So nobody's going to be number one on all of the Billboard Hot 100 charts at the same time. It will never happen. So you got to stop the comparison thing. You know, one of the things I did for prosperity was I always had fresh flowers, and still do to this day. I think, yeah, you could see them back there. I have flowers delivered. So I have flowers in my office, flowers on my dining table, flowers in my bedroom, right? So I spend a lot of money on flowers. And it just so happened that the guy who was detailing my cars also detailed Richard Branson's cars. And Richard had a place a little up the coast from me. And so, I don't know, we were talking about flowers one day, and then he told me Richard spends $5,000 a month on fresh flowers for his mansion. I was like, here I think I'm such a prosperous guy because I'm spending $600-700 a week. Richard spends $5,000, right? There's always a guy with a bigger boat, right? So you realize, no, it's not about that. This is not a contest from me and Richard, who spends more on the flowers. What it's about is like, wow, that's what they mean when they say, slow down and smell the flowers. You know, appreciate them. You realize that's what it's all about. So forget the comparison thing. The other thing, and I think this is really relevant today in TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, is what we do is we're all our own worst critic. Okay? I know nobody is harder on Jorge Melendez than Jorge Melendez. I just know that. And I know that's true for everybody. I know nobody's harder on Bob Burke than Bob Burke, right? Anybody in this chat, and I know nobody's harder on me than me, right? Because you know every petty thought you've ever done. You know every immoral, illegal, nasty, not nice thing you ever did from when you were 12 years old and you wanted to date your best friend's boyfriend or your best friend's girlfriend, and you said a snarky, you know every horrible thing you've ever done. So you judge yourself by the internal you that you're aware of. And then you judge everybody else by the external them. So you see George Clooney being interviewed by Jimmy Kimmel, and he's rich and successful, and he's politically active, and he donates to charity, and he cares for the little people, and you see the perfect public personification of him. But yet he sees the internal one. And I would bet George Clooney is probably the most critical person of George Clooney, right? Because we all are, right? So don't compare your life when the sink is backed up and you can't get the plumber out and you're reading your friends' post on Instagram where they're frolicking on a beach in Tahiti. Okay, that's social media stuff. That ain't real. Okay, that's all make believe. So everybody puts, I mean, I can't even tell you. I mean, I've seen, you know, some friends of mine, there was this post, they were at a ski resort for New Year's, and it was all the kids and the family and the hot cocoa in this ski lodge and videos of the slopes, and what an amazing thing they're having. And like a week later, the wife calls me to say they're getting divorced. And yet I thought, man, if you went by the Instagram post and Facebook post I was seeing last week, everything was perfect. right? But here it is, they're getting divorced because that's the external versus the external, internal versus the external. Um, and then for my Buddhist friends, I know we have a lot of Buddhists who watch this as well. And I've studied the teachings of Buddha, and I think there's a lot of great stuff there. But the interpretation I hear often about Buddhism is that the world is filled with sorrow, and all sorrow is created by desire. And that if we could just eliminate all desire, then we would eliminate all sorrow and we would be happy all of the time. And I just don't think that's a realistic interpretation, a realistic translation of what Buddha was saying. As I read the teachings, I think it's more about the attachment. You know, we create attachment, we hold attachment for specific outcomes. And I think that can cause us sorrow, that can cause us disappointment. But I don't believe that even Buddha felt that we should not have any desires, because Buddha had desires. Buddha had a desire to share his teachings with the world, which he did, right? So let's not, that's why I say this is, I think, maybe not the approach we want to take to it, is that, okay, if I can just reduce my desires to my current existence, then I'm going to be happy. I believe, no, then you're going to be dead. And maybe that language is too strong. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But I just feel like if you're not evolving, if you're not growing, developing, moving a little closer to the highest possible version of yourself, are you really living life? Or are you just existing? So let's talk about some better ways to apply this. Let me see how I'm doing on time. Okay, good. Keep your gratitude flowing. Because remember, the basis of divine discontent, because notice, discontent is not a positive word, right? For most people's definition. So that's why I feel it's really important I pair that word with divine, because I think it's a spiritual discontent, a spiritual state of discontent. And the first part of that scenario is that it is that you have gratitude for the things you do have. And then we still have the desire to do, have, and become more. So keeping a gratitude journal, prayers and affirmations of gratitude, expressing gratitude at every opportunity for the people in your life, the people around you, the things that happen to you. I express gratitude every time I'm coming back from the gym. I just express gratitude. What a great workout I had. And then I make my egg white omelet and my protein and everything. And I like express gratitude. And sometimes I say it out loud that, oh, what a great workout I had. What a great nutritious meal I just ate. I feel the energy pulsating through my body. I celebrate that. I live in gratitude of the moments, right? And then I think the next thing is to really understand the link between becoming and having. So somebody type that in the chat, please. Key point, the link between having and becoming, or getting and becoming. Because what you recognize is that all prosperity is created by, as we talked in an earlier class, we solve problems, we add value, we envision possibilities. So the way we become more prosperous is to become more valuable to the universe around us. So we recognize that, okay, I may have a desire that I would like to trade in my old Chevy and get a new BMW or a Lexus or whatever the case may be. And you recognize, hey, there's a link between having and becoming. Because for me to have more, I have to become more. And that's the magic sauce in all this, that we recognize, hey, we manifest more prosperity by becoming a higher version of ourselves. And then as you go on this process, as you go on this journey, you start to seek things that take you closer to the highest possible version of yourself. And so there's a point where, I just thought I could never get enough sports cars, and I never could get enough watches and shoes and suits and houses. And then I realized, my desires have changed over the years. Now there's a lot of things that are a lot more important to me, right? I'm big on animal causes. I'm big on this mission of taking the principles of free enterprise and teaching them to at-risk youth, particularly in the inner cities, right? And that's why this unchurch is part of that process, right? Because I was looking at, okay, how do I do this? Do I create a nonprofit foundation? Do I do an online learning platform? And I explored some different things. Like I was looking at maybe making this a membership site, and then saying, okay, when you buy a membership, we're going to give one membership free to a kid in the inner cities, because I believe, the answer to solving poverty in the world is going to come from prosperous thinking. And it's not going to come from just entitlement, right? We know if we took all of the money from the top 2% of people the wealthiest people on earth, and listen to this, if you haven't heard this, make sure you really get this, because it's absolute truth with a capital T. If we took all of the wealth from the richest 2% of people in the world and we gave it free to the poorest 2% of people in the world, easily within 6 to 9 months, the money would be back where it started from. Because the people at the poorest part of the spectrum wouldn't even know how to manage that money, what to do with it, how to actually, this is why so many people who win $80 million in the lotto, and you come back 2 years later and they're alcoholic, drunk, broke, homeless, so many things, because they've never learned financial literacy. They don't know what to do with money when they have it. Whereas Jeff Bezos has, you may not like him, you may think he has too much money. That's your choice to believe that, but you cannot deny he has learned financial literacy. He's learned how to do things with the money that he is able to create. So I believe the answer is that we've got to teach kids the principles of prosperity. We've got to teach kids the principles of free enterprise. This is why I love a show like Shark Tank, and I love that there's a lot of families that watch that show together, and kids are learning how business works and how you've got to show value to an investor to get them to come in on your deal, right? So this is what I want to do with this platform. So that's why, and so I'm going to go into the love offering thing now, because this is relevant to what we're talking about. So instead of doing like a platform and then thinking, do I create a foundation? I came up with the idea of this for-profit prosperity ministry. And it's done on a love offering basis, or what means pay what you want basis. I don't apply a price to this. I don't say, okay, it's a 1 hour training and it costs $77. And no, it's like, okay, we're going to get to a point in the service and I'm going to say, okay, here's where you can support the work. So that way, those kids in the inner city, the people who need to hear this message of prosperity, and they don't have the money, they can watch this for free. And if you're one of those people, and this is, you really can't even support it with $1, you just need it, great, I welcome. All I ask you is, hey, share the show. Tweet it, put it on Facebook, share it on your Instagram, share the podcast, share the YouTube channel, whatever. Tell your friends. I want to get people watching together. I love to see groups, and we've got the COVID stuff right now, and we've got to keep the social distancing. But for the people who are communing together, who can do this, as you see on the screen, I've got a couple of people, Jorge Melendez and Jose Lopez, are actually taking my service every week, and they are doing a Spanish version of that. And the link for they have a Facebook page, or the Zoom link is actually in the chat right now. I've got a guy working in Russia who's Alexander, who's going to share the message there. And I have heard from somebody just recently in Quebec, Montreal, Quebec, who's looking, I don't know if he's looking to share this in French, or he just wants to get a group together of people English speaking, and then they're going to, but anyway, I'm in conversation with him. And that's my vision, that this is just going to go all over the world. And when we go to the moon, it's going with us to the moon. And when we go to Mars, it's going with us to Mars, and we're going to circulate it. So if you would, please be so kind as somebody type this in the chat. If you go to randygage.com/go, this is where you can support the work. So again, if you have no means to pay for this, great. All I ask is that you share the show with the people in your world. If you feel moved and want to support the work, and know that I'm hoping, like, instead of saying, okay, it's $77 a person or $97 a person, and then I'm going to give one membership to somebody in the inner city, it's just like that you guys will support the work and say, hey, I can afford it. I'm getting value out of Randy's teaching. I mean, I have people who tithe to me because they don't have a church or temple, and they feel like I give them that spiritual nourishment. If you feel moved, wonderful. But if you just want to support the work, and I have people who say, wow, this, and your work has meant so much to me, and they send $1,000. And I have people all over the world that do $1 a week and $5 a week, and whatever it is, let's just circulate the prosperity. So if you go to randygage.com/go, you will see the affirmation that we do for the offering. So think of whatever you want to do to support the work, and then I'm gonna recite this, and you can recite it with me if you want. We're spreading this energy all over the world through the internet. And then I want to come back, because I do have some real thoughts on how we make this divine discontent work in your life. But anyway, here's the affirmation. Prosperity begins with me. Holding this seed offering in my hand or my heart, I send it forth as a vessel of hope, healing, and highest good, knowing it blesses myself, the recipient, and the universe around us. And so it is. All right, so let's tie this all together. It's not about asceticism. Now, there is a philosophy and adherence of this philosophy of asceticism, and that would be the one that says, hey, just reduce your desires back to your most basic human needs, and then you'll be satisfied. And these are the people that join monasteries and live in a grass hut somewhere in the jungle, and they don't have electricity or internet, or and if they are happy with that, I am happy for them. And if you're happy with that, then I'm happy for you. I almost did that. There was a time, for fun fact, for those who don't know, there was a time I almost joined a monastery. There was a time I was going to enter the ministerial training program. There was a time I was a lay minister in my church for almost 20 years. So I've looked at that philosophy, and I studied this a lot when I went on this sabbatical. This was 2 years where I just worked on me all day, every day. And to really give you an idea, I mean, what I did when I took the sabbatical was I put, I got an offer, somebody who's interested in my condo at just that 2 weeks before. And then I had this revelation and thought I wanted to go on this sabbatical. And I checked with the real estate guy, and the person was still available. And it was a sheik from Dubai. And so I sold my condo to this sheik, everything. I mean, I just said, okay, throw in another 150,000 and it's all the furniture and the artwork and everything, and just bring your toothbrush. And he took me up on it. And so everything. And then I, sent a few things to my apartment in Australia and gave away, donated, hundreds of watches, hundreds of pairs of shoes, a couple dozen, bespoke suits, and just everything. And just said it. I don't want to be, I got to the point where I don't know if I own these things or these things own me. And I didn't like being in that spot. I want the money and material things to enhance my prosperity, to enhance my lifestyle, not limit them. So I really looked at this is where I studied very deep all of the major organized religions of the world, looked at the big philosophies, and I looked at hedonism, asceticism, and that's what I want to make clear. This is not about asceticism. I felt like if I did that, if I were to become an ascetic, I would be committing a crime against the force that created me. And what I'm about to say is going to sound just arrogant as you know what, but I'm going to say it anyway. I felt like I have work to do in the world. I have wisdom and insights that I've developed. I am a guy who went from sleeping on my floor, selling my furniture to pay the rent, to becoming very wealthy. And I learned how to do that. I learned there's a process. I went from somebody who was ready to blow my brains out in a cheesy, sleazy hotel room to somebody living a prosperous life in health and harmony. And I feel like there's a message there that I need to share. And if I were to go and, go on the island where Luke Skywalker did and just hunt for the eggs and the fish every morning and, live in solitude, that would be a crime against the force that created me. And I think for a lot of you watching and listening right now, it would be the same for you, that if you chose that route, there's so much you have to offer others in the world that it would be a crime. But I'm not going to judge you for that. If you feel asceticism is your thing, okay. But that's not what I'm talking about in this lesson. I'm saying divine discontent. Also, very important, this is not about hedonism, right? I realized, okay, so I got 250 watches and now I want that $500,000 watch. And then I want the watch after that. And at some point you just say, that is not going to bring me happiness. It's not going to bring me joy. No matter how many cars I own or how many watches I own or how many homes I own, that isn't going to fix the stuff inside of me. That isn't going to give me power over an addiction. That's not going to give me the ability to be in healthy, functional relationships with healthy, functional people. And the hedonism is all internal, right? It's, and you know, the hedonism, the only place you end up is you be like Donald Trump, if that's your thing, right? Okay, and I've got gold-plated toilets and gold-plated. It isn't going to make you happy. It isn't going to make you a better person. It isn't going to bring more prosperity into your life. So I think it's about the harmonic convergence, meaning you're, and I love that term, harmonic convergence. That's where I think that's the sweet spot I think we're looking for with this, where we're nurturing our physical pleasure, our satisfaction. We're living in harmony. We're living in gratitude. Yet we have created this magnetic force that pulls us higher. Right? My friend Bob Berg is on here. As I said, I saw him there earlier. I remember when I sent him my galley, he agreed to review my Risky is the New Safe book. And he read it and he wrote me back. He said, Randy, this is your magnum opus. This is the work of your lifetime. And I said, dude, thank you. I'm so honored, but it better not be my magnum opus because I need my next book to be better than that. And I felt like Mad Genius took me to a higher level. I believe Mad Genius takes the reader to a higher level. Thank you for the hearts. Isa Bonita has given me hearts. And that's what I feel Radical Rebirth. Like I said, I believe this is the culmination of my work because I put together the business, the philosophy, the health, the prosperity, all of that. We really, and I don't want this to be a pitch about the book, so I'm not going to say any more about that. But get the book if you didn't. I think it will really help you transform to where you want to go. If you don't believe me, ask Paula Zaragoza, who I see sipping some beverage right now. She will be my testimonial. It's about finding that harmonic convergence, that place where you are still in gratitude, but there's something that says you have to do more. It's not right for you to hold still. It's not right for you to stand pat. It's a disservice to the force that created you. It's a dishonor to the universe that you are gonna, the Bible talked about hiding your light under a basket. I believe there's real truth in that. You remember, you have more only because you become more. And that's what I want these lessons to be. So we're gonna do this at least for a while. It's just an experiment. I'm seeing, okay, are there people out there who, is that my friend Booba I see in there? Are there enough people out there who were willing to support the work, who will share the show, get it out on the podcast and the YouTube channel and support the work? And if the universe shows me it's ready for it, then we're going to keep doing it. Right now, the plan is every Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern. If you have a better time for you, write it in the chat or on the YouTube channel. Same thing. Hey, my friend Peter in Canada, good to see you there. I'm just trying, as you know, my work is in like 27 different languages. So I've got people who follow the work all over the world, and they're all different time zones. And I know, like my friends in Australia, it's probably 1 or 2 a.m. there. So it's not a great time for them, but it's a great time for the people in Europe and the people in Miami. It works pretty good. I got people in LA and San Fran who are saying, you're making me get up too early. So I'm open to hear from you guys what you think. So whether here, whether on the YouTube channel, whether on my blog, but let's see where we go with this. Because I think, I know the world needs this message of prosperity. And I know the answer to poverty is not entitlement. The answer to poverty is enlightenment, that we've got to share the principle. And I get, by the way, don't think, I know what it is to have my lights cut off. I know what it is to be evicted. I know what it is to not have money for groceries. I know what it is to roll up pennies and get 2 rolls of pennies and take them and buy $1 worth of gas. Okay, I have done that in my life. So I know what that is. And I know that there are situations and circumstances in the world where we just need to help people, right? And this is why, charity is the #1 thing on my tax return every year and will be every year, right? I get that. There are sometimes we just encounter people that, there's a person on the street and we just need to give them $20 because they need that money to eat that day. And that will make a difference for one person, right? But ultimately I just think this might be a dolphin jumped up in the bay. Wow. We don't have dolphins here, do we? Maybe we do. That really to make a difference is enlightenment. We have to teach these principles of prosperity, free enterprise, and generosity. And so that's what the work's about. All right, so I'm going to end with our affirmation. It's on that Go page if you want to say it with me. We celebrate the following truth. We have prosperity because we choose to accept it. We circulate prosperity joyfully, lovingly, and gratefully. We become prosperity by generous daily living. Prosperity surrounds us everywhere in the universe, yet we know it begins with us. Thank you, my friends, for watching, everybody. Peace, love, and unicorns. I hope to see you back next Saturday, 10 a.m. Eastern. Peace.